During the early 1960s, the band's beginnings were in the Greenwich Village part of Lower Manhattan's folk music scene. John B. Sebastian, the son of classic harmonicist John Sebastian, grew up in the village surrounded by music and artists, including those active in the 50s and early 1960s American folk music revival. Sebastian joined the Spoonful with guitarist Zal Yanofsky from the Mugwumps, a bohemian folk group that played local coffee houses and tiny clubs, and whose two other members, Cass Elliott and Denny Doherty, went on to become half of the Mamas and the Papas. The development of the Lovin Spoonful during this period was subsequently detailed in the lyrics of the Mamas and Papas' 1967 top 10 hit, Creaky Alley. Drummer Jan Carl and bassist Steve Boone completed the lineup, but Carl was replaced by drummer vocalist Joe Butler, following the group's debut performance at the Night Owl in Greenwich Village. Butler had previously collaborated with Boone in the band The Kingsmen, not the hit group of Louie Louie fame. The group's initial Night Owl performances were reportedly so poor that the club owner instructed them to go away and rehearse, so they did so in the basement of the adjacent Hotel Albert, until they were good enough to capture the attention of the crowd. In early 1965, the group produced its first recordings for Elektra Records and agreed in principle to sign a long-term contract with Elektra in exchange for a $10,000 advance. However, as part of a previously negotiated production contract, Kama Sutra Records had the option to sign the Lovin Spoonful as recording artist, which Kama Sutra exercised upon learning of Elektra's decision to sign the band. Following the band's breakthrough on Kama Sutra, the 4 tracks recorded for Elektra were included on the 1966 Different Artists compilation LP, What's Shaking. On July 20th, 1965, the band collaborated with producer Eric Jacobson to record their debut song, Do You Believe in Magic, penned by Sebastian. Furthermore, except for a few covers, primarily on their debut album, they composed their own material, including Younger Girl, which missed the Hot 100. It was a minor hit though for the Critters in mid-1966. Do You Believe in Magic peaked at number 9 on the Hot 100, and the band followed it up with a string of successful singles and albums produced by Jacobson in 1965 and 1966. The Lovin Spoonful rose to prominence with folk-flavored pop successes including You Didn't Have to Be So Nice, which peaked at number 10, and Daydream, which peaked at number 2. Other singles were Did You Ever Have to Make Up Your Mind, another number 2 hit, and Summer in the City, their lone number 1 hit in the US. It was on there for a few weeks. It was from August 13th to the 27th of 1966. Later that year, the top 10 smash Rain on the Roof and the number 8 hit Nashville Cats completed the group's first 7 straight Hot 100 top 10 hits. Gary Lewis and the Playboys, who I did a video on, and if you want to check it out, it's in my channel, are the only other 1960s acts to have accomplished this feat. The Lovin Spoonful and the Grateful Dead were part of the West Coast acoustic folk music scene. They cited the Lovin Spoonful concert as a watershed moment in their decision to quit the folk scene and become electric. The creators of the television series that ultimately became the Monkees first wanted to base their series around the Lovin Spoonful at the height of the band's fame, but pulled the band from the project owing to disagreements over song publication rights. Butler replaced Jim Ratto in the part of Claude for a sold-out 4-month run with the Broadway version of the rock musical Hair, giving the band even more exposure. The song Pal by the Lovin Spoonful was used as the opening theme of Woody Allen's first feature film, What's Up, Tiger Lily? The band also composed and played instrumental music for the film and appeared in some live performance sequences, reportedly added during post-production without Allen's knowledge or consent. Soon after, John Sebastian created the music for Francis Ford Coppola's second film, You're a Big Boy Now, and the Lovin Spoonful performed on the soundtrack, which contained another hit, Darling Be Home Soon. Both movies came out in 1966. In addition, the jazz musician Herbie Hancock played an instrumental rendition of the Spoonful song Butchie's Tune in the Michelangelo Antonioni film Blow Up, which was also released that year. In early 1967, the band parted ways with the longtime producer Eric Jacobson, going to Joe Wizard to create the song 6 O'Clock, which peaked at number 18 in the United States. Yanofsky quit the band after the soundtrack album You're a Big Boy Now was released in May 1967, owing largely to a narcotics raid in San Francisco in which he was detained for marijuana possession and pushed by police to identify a source. He was a Canadian citizen who dreaded being prohibited from re-entering the United States, so he cooperated. The event sparked a counterculture reaction against the band with a full-page ad in the Los Angeles Free Press. Yanofsky's musical career was badly affected, even though he went on to record a solo single and album. He eventually quit the music industry to start Chez Piggy, a restaurant in Kingston, Ontario, Canada. His daughter currently owns and operates the restaurant as of 2021. Yanofsky, Sebastian, and Boone all agreed in interviews that Yanofsky was fired owing to Yanofsky's outspoken dissatisfaction with the band's direction and Sebastian's songwriting. Sebastian's music was becoming more personal, while Yanofsky wished for a return to their early years club scene, which was unattainable. Jerry Yester, previously of the Modern Folk Quartet, took Yanofsky's position. Around this period, maybe coincidentally, the band's music shifted to a more pop-oriented direction. The Lovin Spoonful's new lineup released two moderately successful Wizard-produced singles, She Is Still a Mystery and Money, as well as the 11-track Everything Plain in December 1967. Sebastian, whose last performance was perhaps on May 10, 1968, in Selinsgrove, Pennsylvania, quit the group before the end of the month to go solo. The band was now officially a trio, with drummer Butler, who had previously sung lead on a couple of album tracks, taking over as lead vocalist. Sebastian had written or co-written and sang all of the Lovin Spoonful songs up to this point. The band now resorted to independent authors for its singles and utilized a range of outside producers. Butler sang the band's last two Hot 100 hits, Never Going Back to Nashville, penned by Jon Stewart, and Me About You. Furthermore, Never Going Back included just Yester and Butler's playing. The other musical sections were done by session musicians, which had not happened since drummer Gary Chester's appearance on Do You Believe in Magic. Never Going Back was the group's highest charting song after Sebastian, peaking at 73. With economic success dwindling, the Lovin Spoonful disbanded in early 1969. Following the publication of their album Revelation Revolution 69, they disbanded. Boone produced an album for Mercury Records by the Ox Pedals, a cosmic rock band influenced by the Moody Blues in Search for the Lost Chord in 1969. When the record failed to chart, Boone acquired a yacht and spent the next 4 years sailing around the Caribbean. In 1973, he returned to Baltimore, Maryland, and purchased a recording studio established by engineer George Massenburg, renaming it Blue Seas after a ship rescued in the Caribbean. Many well-known musicians recorded at Blue Seas, including Lowell George and Little Feat, who recorded Feats Don't Fail Me Now there, as well as Robert Palmer and the Seldom Scene. Following John Sebastian's solo performance at Woodstock in 1969, Kama Sutra released the song Younger Generation as a single in 1970. Sebastian had to use the song to end his Woodstock set. The single was taken from the 2-year-old Everything Plain album and billed to the Lovin Spoonful with John Sebastian. However, it did not chart. However, in 1976, a solo with Welcome Back, the theme song of the ABC series Welcome Back Kotter, Sebastian achieved another #1 hit. Murray Weinstock, a current member of the Lovin Spoonful, plays the piano on this album of John Sebastian's. The original lineup, Sebastian, Yanofsky, Butler, and Boone, was reassembled temporarily in the fall of 1979 for a concert at the Concord Hotel in the Catskills for an appearance in Paul Simon's October 1980 film, One Trick Pony. Butler and Boone agreed to resurrect the Lovin Spoonful with Jerry Yester in 1991, following a long-awaited settlement with their record label. Jerry's brother Jim Yester, previously the association, joined them. Sebastian and Yanofsky both declined to take part. To allow Joe Butler to focus on singing, drummer John Morello was recruited to the band in March 1992. After a 2-month practice in the Berkshire Mountains, the band began touring, with Joe Butler serving as the primary lead singer. David Jacob, a keyboardist, joined in June 1992. Jim Yester quit this new band in March 1993, and guitarist Randy Chance took his place. Lena Yester took over for David Jaco at the same time. Randy Chance was fired in June 1993 and never replaced. Mike Archuri took over on drums for John Morello in March 1997, and Phil Smith joined on guitar in 2000, replacing Lena Yester. On March 6, 2000, the original 4 members of the Lovin Spoonful were inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. At the event, the 4 original members sang Do You Believe in Magic and Did You Ever Have to Make Up Your Mind? Yanofsky passed away in 2002. Sebastian has claimed that he no longer desires to perform with the group's surviving members since he wanted to move on after he left the group. Jerry Yester was dismissed from the organization in 2017 after being charged with 30 charges of child pornography. The current lineup, which is still fronted by Belair and Boone, includes Phil Smith on guitar and vocals, Mike Arturi on drums, and Murray Weinstock on piano and vocals. The three remaining original members, Sebastian, Boone, and Belair, played as the Lovin Spoonful for the first time in 20 years in February 2020 as part of the Wild Honey Orchestra's all-star homage to the band. The proceeds from the show went to the Autism Think Tank. And that's what happened to the Lovin Spoonful. Thank you guys for watching, and if you haven't already, like and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more content like this. Let me know who should I do next on this channel, and I look at the comments all the time. Let me know, and you'll probably get your request done, and I'll see you in the next video.